Ahoy and welcome to the Paw-Rific stocking tutorial. Today we're going to be making a fun little stocking for our pets. So to begin, print out your stocking pattern pieces and then assemble them. So here mine are printed out and the paper I'm using is US letter, so I will be butting up each page to the blue line. If I were using A4 paper, I would butt up to the red dotted line. Don't forget to check your 1 inch or 4 centimeter square. So you'd want to just take a ruler and measure it real quick. It's best to use a steel ruler if you can find one, or a rigid plastic ruler. Tapes stretch out over time, and when you measure, if you use a tape or actually any measuring equipment, you never want to start at the end because ends can become damaged over time. So it's best to start at your 1 inch mark. So you would start here, or you would start here, or you would start here. Okay? So your 1 inch square is good, or 4 centimeter square is good. Go ahead and put the pattern pieces together by butting those lines up. Now here you'll see that my red dotted line is actually coming down the page and it's not parallel with the edge of the page. And this is because my printer will sometimes pull the pattern pieces or pull the paper crooked. And so it prints crooked. When this happens, instead of reprinting the pattern piece for something small like this, I just line up the lines so I get it close. Like that. Okay? It's not a huge deal with something small like this to be off a little. It is a big deal if you were doing, you know, a pattern piece that went from, you know, 1 page to 5 pages and every page was off by a 1/16 of an inch or more. But we're just going from 1 to 2, so it's fine. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to waste the paper to reprint it because my printer is unreliable and it very well could do the same thing again. So my pieces are taped together and I'm going to cut them out. I use my old blades and then I switch blades. So when this becomes too dull for me, it gets moved to my pink one, and my pink one is for cutting paper. My non-pink one, that's for fabric. That's the intent anyways. You know, sometimes you just grab whatever, and then you're like, no, that one is for fabric. So the curved lines, they're a little bit difficult to cut out with my blade here, and for those I'll probably cut out with my scissors. But straight edges, I'm going to use this little guy. And so this thick black line here, that's the pattern piece we want to cut out. And the dotted line that you see is actually our sew line. So if you're new to sewing, or if you're working with a child on this, you can actually take and fold here, or like here, cut that seam allowance away, and then you can draw the line with fabric chalk or a fabric marker. And then that person knows I'm going to sew right there, okay? Okay, let's see. We'll do this little rectangle. The seam allowance is 5/8 on this. Now, if you're working with a kid on this and they're learning how to sew, you may just want to attach the paw pieces using fabric glue. But if they're more advanced, you may want to show them how to sew it on. But for a quick, satisfying project, you could just glue these pieces on, and then they can sew the actual stocking piece. Or you can omit them altogether if you were doing a print, and it would take away from the print. Once I get this cut out, I'm going to cut out my fabric pieces. So I'm going to use woven material for that, and I'm just going to iron it first and get all the wrinkles out, and then I'll cut the fabric out. There we go. Okay. So with your pattern pieces cut out, go ahead and cut the fabric ones out. Next, you are going to want to transfer the paw markings from the pattern piece to one of your outer stocking pieces. So I've done it here in yellow. This is where I will put my paw pieces. To transfer it, all you gotta do is cut out the marks that, that's in the pattern piece, and then you just trace it. Okay, so once you have that done, you're gonna want to put your fusible interfacing on your paw pieces. And it will be the bumpy side to the wrong side of the fabric. So because my fabric is black on both sides, I put these yellow lines to illustrate what the wrong side would be. So it would be wrong side down. On the bumpy side, fusible interfacing has glue on it, and the glue side is bumpy, so you want the glue on the wrong side of your fabric. And you could actually cut your fusible interfacing to be the same size as your pattern pieces, but I'm lazy, so I just kind of iron it on like this, and then I cut them out. So whichever way you prefer to do it, go ahead and do that now. Now that your paw pieces have fusible interfacing attached to them, now you get to decide how ambitious you are. At this point, you can put your paw pieces in place, pin them there, take them over to your sewing machine and do a little freehand machine applique going around these pieces right here with a zigzag stitch. I do a straight stitch first, tack them in place, and then a zigzag all the way around. Or if perhaps you're not quite so ambitious, but you still want to surprise your pet with something fabulous, grab yourself some of this spray adhesive glue. Yes, spray adhesive, extra strength. Give it a good shake. Lay out some paper. You don't want to do this on your sewing mat. And spray them, and then stick them in place and move on to sewing the actual stocking pieces. Now, if you are feeling ambitious, let's go over to the sewing machine and do a little freehand machine applique. Okay, it's not too late to turn back now. You can still spray these paw pieces on. Nobody's gonna know, okay? You can actually spray them on to just help keep them here and still machine, freehand machine applique them, just so you know. Or you can wing it, like I'm about to do with where these paw prints go. Actually, let's put these over there so I don't lose them. Okay, so let's begin. My machine is set for a straight stitch. I'm gonna stitch all the way around first, and then, well, I think I'll stitch them all on, and then I'll do my zigzag. Once we get those paw pieces out of the way, and kudos to you if you freehand machine applique them, because it's very time consuming. And if you really want them to look fancy, make your zigzag stitch length very, very small. It's gonna take you even longer, but it will be beautiful, and your cat or ferret, I'm sure would appreciate it. So now that that is out of the way, we're going to sew all of the pieces that need to be sewn. Not together, just like individually. So the liner, the outer stocking piece, the cuff, we're all gonna do that right now. So we are going to lay all these pieces right sides together. So right side, and together. Perfect. This is gonna have a 5/8 inch seam allowance. And if you cut your pattern piece away at the dotted line and you put it over this, you can trace that line if you need the help. You can also, on your sewing machine, there should be a plate that tells you, 5/8 inch away. If there isn't a plate, you can take your tape measure over there, and from the needle, measure 5/8 away, and then put a piece of tape down. Then just, make sure the edge of your fabric is aligned with the piece of tape. Okay, so right sides together. This is my liner. It's beautiful. It's gold. It's Carl's favorite colors. That's my dog. Right sides together. The stocking is for him. Now my red piece, this is my cuff. And I know having a sewing tutorial where the front and the back are the same makes it very difficult to follow what's going on. So I have put yellow dash lines, slash lines, indicating this is the wrong side, okay? So that means this is my right side. So right sides together. This is lining up the short end. If I were to fold this the other way, like this, it is a very long and narrow piece. You don't want that. So it should look like this. And if you don't know, like if you're still kind of like, ooh, I don't know, it should be as wide, minus 5/8 inch, because we're only sewing one side of this, as the stocking. So if you have a 5/8 inch gap here, you have folded it correctly. If it looks like this, fold it the other way, okay? Remember, right sides together, okay? Next, take it over to your sewing machine. Don't forget to backstitch and sew 5/8 inch around all of these sides. All of these sides. And don't forget this one, just this one, 5/8 inch. Don't forget to backstitch. Okay? Fantastic. You have sewn these 3 pieces together. And next, you're going to want to trim off the seam allowance from your stocking pieces. You can leave it here on your cuff piece, that's fine. But for the stocking pieces, you want to trim it to about 1/8 to 3/16. Don't get too small cutting it because when you turn it right side out, you may pop that seam open. So 1/8 to 3/16 is good enough. And next you're going to want to turn them all right side out, press all the curves out. And for the cuff piece, you'll press this seam open like this, and then you will fold it so that the wrong sides are together. And you will press it so that it is like, hold on, there we go. So there's the seam, and you'll press it like this, okay? Just like that. So go ahead and take care of all your pressing needs right now. Okay, now that you have your liner, your outer piece, and your cuff piece pressed and turned right side out, we're gonna take care of our little loop guy, okay? So, black to indicate the right side. You will not see any yellow lines, and to indicate the wrong side, you'll see these lines, okay? So the first step to make this is to fold it in half, just like that, okay? Fold it and press it so that you get a nice line running down it, okay? And once you have that, you're going to open it up, and you're going to take the long end and you're going to fold it towards your new center line. And then you're going to press it, okay? And then you're going to fold the other side in, and you're going to press that, okay? And then you're going to fold it on itself one more time so it's thin like this, and you're going to press it. And then you're going to sew it together. Not on the folded side, but on this side where the two ends come together. You won't use a 5/8 inch seam allowance because it's not 5/8 inches wide. Go ahead and do 1/8, running down this side right here. Okay? How exciting. We are almost done. Now, what we want to do is we want to take the liner, and the liner is inside out. This is the outside. This is the inside, the nice stuff. That's what you want to see. And you want to put it on your hand like a glove and insert it into your outer piece, lining up those side seams and making sure you press all the little toes into the little toes of the outer piece. And let's give it a good wiggle. Okay? Just like a glove. Now make sure those seams are lined up. Just like that. Beautiful. Okay? And you also want to make sure that the width of your liner is the same width as the outer piece. Because if it's not, when you sew it, you will have a bump. So, determine now if one piece is wider than the other, and if one is, fix it. It's woven material. Now, if you're using knits, you just stretch it, you're fine. But wovens, you really got to take those seam allowances seriously. Okay, so then we have our little loop piece. We're just going to fold it like this, and then we will put it in here like so, and baste it in place, okay? So let me take that over to the machine real quick and do that. Where's my clips? Where's my clips? Okay, so our loop piece has been basted on. You're just going to trim off the threads and clean it up a little bit, okay? And now we're going to take our cuff piece and we're going to insert it just like this. And we're going to insert it into the liner, and we're going to line up the side seams. Well, the one seam, and then the fold line from when we pressed it, which should be 180 degrees out. Directly opposite of that seam is 180 degrees out because it's a circle. So put it in here and get it lined up so that there is no lumps or bumps. If you find a lump or a bump or something indicating that your cuff is smaller than your stocking pieces, you need to take apart your pieces. You either need to make a new cuff piece that's wider, or you need to take the seams out right here and make it more narrow, okay? So there's two ways to fix this. Replace your cuff or make this more narrow. If you find that your cuff is too big, just pull it out and determine how much it's too big by and just sew it down that line, okay? This is important if you're working with wovens. If you're working with knits, you can stretch it, you can fudge it. But for wovens, you gotta take those seam allowances very seriously, okay? So once you have it in, you're gonna take it over to your machine and you're gonna sew it all the way around. And if you're using wovens, you can either hit this raw edge with your serger to keep it from fraying, you can zigzag it, or you can use pinking shears and just trim it away. It's your choice. Or leave it alone. If you don't plan on ever washing your stocking, it won't be a big deal. Okay? Well, we are done with this. All we have to do is turn this piece right side out. Oh, and trim some of these little threads off. The best part about sewing is finishing a project and seeing how good it looks. It is almost as good as Christmas morning. So let's see what we've got. Isn't that just satisfying? I guess now the only thing to do is to fill it up with some goodies.